Now coming on to the latest updates on Trump's tariff war. President Donald Trump has threatened to impose a 200% tariff on European alcohol imports, including wine and cognac. This move is part of a growing trade war that has caused recession fears. Trump's threat came after the European Union said it would impose tariffs on American whiskey and other products. This was in a reaction to Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminium. Canada, the US's largest aluminium supplier, has announced countermeasures and taken the issue to the World Trade Organization. Alcohol is becoming a major point of conflict in Trump's trade war. Trump's 200% tariffs on European alcohol could hurt giants like Pernod Ricard. And industry leaders have urged both sides to de-escalate the conflict. Trump argues that the tariffs are needed to revitalize US industries. Meanwhile, the threat of tariffs has worried companies like Tesla about the impact of these retaliatory tariffs. Tesla has warned that it and other US exporters could face retaliatory tariffs due to President Donald Trump's aggressive tariff policies. Tesla, led by CEO Elon Musk, is a close ally of Trump, but is still worried about the potential negative impacts of these trade actions. Tesla wants to avoid retaliatory tariffs like those it faced in past trade disputes, which led to higher tariffs on its electric vehicles. Tesla also points out that even with efforts to localize its supply chain, some parts are hard to source within the United States. Let's listen in to what the French Prime Minister and others had to say about the 200% tariffs on Europe.
Donc, il faut que tous les gouvernements, pas seulement de la France, parce que l'Italie, ça produit pas mal de vin et de spiritueux, l'Espagne, ça produit pas mal de vin et de spiritueux. Et si les États européens sont tout seuls, ils n'ont aucune chance de s'en sortir. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle il faut construire la solidarité européenne en face de cela. Je ne doute pas que nous puissions, nous aussi, montrer notre volonté et notre résistance. Mais on ne peut pas se laisser terrasser par des menaces de cet ordre.
200% de taxes, c'est tout simplement l'arrêt des expéditions vers les États-Unis. Il n'y a plus une bouteille qui part. 200% de taxes, ça veut dire qu'une bouteille qui aujourd'hui arrive à la frontière des États-Unis à 5 €, par le seul fait de passer la frontière, elle passe à 15 €. Il n'y a aucun consommateur qui suit un tel mouvement. Alors pour notre secteur, le marché US, c'est le premier marché d'exportation. C'est 4 milliards d'euros, grosso modo, entre les vins et les spiritueux. C'est aussi le premier marché d'exportation au niveau européen. Au niveau européen, c'est 8 milliards d'euros d'exportation. La France fait à peu près la moitié. C'est un énorme marché. Il n'y a pas de marché équivalent, il n'y a pas de marché de repli.
We are now once again joined by Raymond Vickery, former US Assistant Secretary of Commerce, located in Washington. Once again, thank you very much for joining us, Raymond. Trump has threatened 200% tariffs on European alcohol, which the EU terms as the most hostile. What are your thoughts on this? Will Trump keep putting these tariffs on different goods all around the world? What's happening?
Well, thanks again for having me. It's apparent that what Trump has entered into really is a fantasy world of his in which no retaliation occurs when he demands something and puts a tariff on alcohol, for example, wine and spirits from Europe. But of course, that's not the real world. The real world is that people do not sit still for these kinds of measures. And the most unfortunate aspect of this is that this tariff war, which President Trump has initiated, has consequences across the board, not only economically, but in terms of security. It is impossible for you to have a strong relationship, for example, between the United States, Europe, Canada, and so forth, in NATO, and at the same time be at war economically. Unfortunately, President Trump does not seem to be deterred by this. He has not taken to heart the lessons of the 20th century, and that is that the building of peace and prosperity are indivisible. What he sees is a 19th century view in which you can have an economic fortress in the United States, and it will be so powerful that it won't need others. This is completely contrary to reality, and it's up to other great democracies, India, Japan, Europe, to try to rein in this approach. And that can be done by collective action among others who have in mind the building of peace and prosperity along the lines which have served us reasonably well since the end of the Second World War. So this is a very difficult time, and even Elon Musk's own company has put out that they're afraid of the retaliation. The interesting thing is that nobody in the company was willing to sign the letter because they're afraid of retaliation from Trump and indeed even from the putative head of Tesla, Elon Musk.
Yes.
Raymond,
this is what I wanted to ask about you from you next. Obviously, we've seen that Trump's closest ally, Elon Musk, is even getting affected by these tariffs. What other consequences are the people within the US going to feel from these impositions, which Trump is enforcing on countries all around the world?
Well, it's pretty obvious that a tariff is a tax, and not a tax on the foreigner, as President Trump has said, but a tax which is paid by the importer. And that can only lead to inflation. Now, President Trump got elected in large part because of his saying that inflation was out of control, which was not true under Biden. There had been inflation coming out of the pandemic, but that's the way he got elected. In part, that and immigration were his two big issues. Now, people, even those who've voted for Trump, are starting to wake up to the fact that he's not paying attention to their core concerns in regard to inflation, but rather has a grandiose view, egotistical view, that he can be the great man of the 21st century by causing people to bend the knee through tariffs. So that's the situation, but it's taking it'll take a long time really to rectify that in the United States, because we have a presidential system. He's in for 4 years. He's got majorities in the Senate and the House, at least in the House for 2 years. And so it takes time. And there are so many people who feel that they can outsmart the situation by not opposing what is happening. But you see, if you look at Wall Street, if you look at what's happening to Dow Jones and the other indices, those are tanking down by 10%. So this is a huge political gamble for President Trump, but it's one that he thinks that he can win. He's won so many other gambles that people said he couldn't. He's going to win one more. The problem is, this time around, it seems to me that it's the writing's on the wall that it's not going to have a good economic outcome for the United States or for the world.
Do you think this could in fact lead to these countries that have had these tariffs imposed on them to form to form alliances in the future, which could affect and alliances and trade agreements in the future, which could affect the US long after Donald Trump has ended his second presidential term?
Well, I think there's no question that it can. You know, it's easy to tear down an institution like the World Trade Organization, like the multilateral system. and President Trump is showing that every day. And people don't sit still. They make their own arrangements to try to protect the interest of their citizens. But then there is that lingering effect long after President Trump has left the scene. And that is a difficulty. It seems to me that what has to happen now is that there has to be, and there's already starting, a collective approach to saying, look, this is not going to be the way in which we're willing to deal. And it's not going to, this isn't going to come about just by heads of state coming in and flattering Trump and saying, well, we'll make a side deal here and we'll buy some more goods from you there, and you let us out from this. Trump is on a disastrous path economically. If you put aside iron and steel, look at what he says is going to happen on April 2nd. And that is, whether you're friend, foe, doesn't make any difference. There's going to be a reciprocal tariff, which really destroys not only WTO, it destroys what we've had in the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, and it's an extremely difficult situation.
Raymond Vickery, thank you very much once again for joining us.